Okay, so in this video, I'm going to be explaining the C code that I made for the fourth assignment of Computer Programming 1 practicum, where we were tasked to make a program that calculates the average, the highest and lowest temperature for a week, aka 7 days. And here is the code. Of course, we start by including the standard input-output library, stdio.h. Then we follow it up with int main, and then brackets, which essentially declares our main function. Afterwards, we declare our variables. Here I have both float and integer. For the float, I have temp in bracket 7, which is essentially an array that will store the temperature for 7 days, because the user will input a temperature for each day from day 1 till day 7. And then we have sum essentially sums up all the temperatures from all across 7 days. And then we also put equals 0 here because we want the value of the sum to be 0 at the start, so it doesn't cause any undefined behavior or problems. And then for float, we also have average temperature, which is what we're looking for. Self-explanatory, it is just the average of all the temperatures across the days. And then for integer, we have d here, which stands for day. This is what we're going to use to do the loops and calculations. We also have min underscore d and max underscore d, which is just minimal day and max day. Also starts at value 0, so it doesn't cause any undefined behavior. And then afterwards, this is where we print a string. Here I wrote enter temperature for each day of the week in Celsius to indicate that the user should write or input a temperature for each day for the week from day 1 till day 7. And to gain that input, we start a loop here using the integer d, where d starts at 0. D, this loop keeps going until d is still under 7, and then d keeps increasing each loop. And in this loop, there are three things that happens. First, there's a printf, scanf, and sum. In printf, it will say day %d, and then the variable d plus 1, which just essentially writes day 1, day 2, day 3 until day 7 on the terminal, and then scanf with %f, and then end temp brackets d, which essentially lets the user to input the temperature for each day. So this will write day 1 in the terminal, and then next to it, the user can input the temperature for said day. And then afterwards, we have sum. Here is where we calculate the sum of all temperatures across 7 days. We use plus equals to sum it. And then, of course, temp d, because we want to, again, sum all the temperatures in the array. And then afterwards, we calculate the average temperature, which is just sum divided by 7. Of course, sum we got just earlier. Afterwards, we start another loop, which uses the exact same format. Again, d equals 0, d under 7, d plus plus. But this time, we have two if statements where if temp d is bigger than temp max d, then max d equals d. Now let me explain how this works. This is used to find the highest temperature out of the 7 days. Now, when the user inputs the temperature for each day, it goes, one by one. It's day 1, then day 2, then day 3. The code will assess that one by one, right? So using this if statement and using it in a loop, it will keep updating what is the highest number. So let's say day 1, the temperature is 25, and then day 2, the temperature is 26. Of course, the code will assess day 1 first. So the day 1 will only have 25 as the value. So 25 will automatically be the max temperature because it's the first one. Because this indicates if, temp d, which in this case is only 25, is higher than temp max D, which at the moment is 0, then max D will turn into D, which is going to be 25, the highest temperature value. So at day 1, it will be 25, but then when the code assesses day 2 and it's 26 Celsius, it will loop this again and it will update the max D into 26 because at this instance, 26 will obviously be higher than the current max, which was 25. So then the max D will turn into 26. And then the if statement down here is exactly the same, but the opposite. It's just the lowest. So temp D is, if temp D is lower than temp min D, then min D equals D. Essentially, this is used to find the highest temperature out of the 7 days, while this finds the lowest. And then now that we've calculated the average, the highest and the lowest temperature, all we need to do is output what the users want or the purpose of the program, which is, seeing the answers in the terminal itself. So here we print the first one, the average temperature for the week is %.2F Celsius, and then the variable average temp to put in the float. So the user can see the average temperature with 2 decimal points behind. And then we have printf highest temperature %.2F Celsius on day %D. And of course, 0.2F here refers to the max D temperature, while day here refers to the max D itself plus 1. And then that will output highest temperature of, the highest temperature and then what day it's on. Same goes here for the lowest temperature, just of course using the minimal variables instead. And last of all, we have return 0, which indicates if the program has been run successfully. Enough explanation. I'm going to now show you in the terminal. We're just going to run the code here. As you can see, it'll print enter temperature for each day of the week to the user in Celsius. I specifically ask. And then here there's day 1. And next to it, we can input the temperature for day 1. For example, let's say day 1, the temperature was 25. Day 2 was 26. Day 3 was 27. Day 4 was 25 again. Day 5 was 24. Day 26 was 26 again. And maybe day 7 is 25 again. There, after we input all 7 temperatures for each day within the week, the output will show up. As you can see, out of the temperature data that I input, here are the answers. The average temperature for the week is 25.43 Celsius. The highest temperature would be 27 Celsius on day 3, which we can see right here. That's exactly what we put in on day 3. And then it's also the highest, of course. And then for the lowest temperature, it's 24 Celsius on day 5, which we can see right here. Absolutely correct. And that is the code and the presentation. Thank you for watching.